What's up, YouTube? So today we are going to do a mid to high taper without the C-cup. I posted a video on my channel a couple weeks ago of us doing a haircut similar, but we kept the C-cup. But this client prefers no C-cup, so we're going to give him a pretty nice taper, cut it down to wave length, and it's going to be a pretty clean cut, all natural. So any haircut I do, I always like to break the haircut down into 4 systems. If you're new here, you're gonna hear me always stress that, systematize everything. So the first step is always prepping the client. Just get an understanding of what the client is looking for during your consultation. This is a returning client, so he normally gets the same thing. So we cut it down to a 1.5. We're trimming the beard down today. I left some of the beard work out of the video. I mainly focus on the haircut. But if that's something you guys really would like to see more of, me doing more beard work, then I can start leaving that in there as well. But to start out, continuing our prep work, we're putting in our initial guidelines so the foundation is set. So once we get to blending, we don't have to go back and make sure everything is balanced. We're going to achieve that good foundation before we even start that blending process by making sure our guidelines are nice and intact. And if you're a beginner barber, instead of using a trimmer, you can use your clipper the exact same way and then just come back and clean it up with your trimmer. This will help you not have to fight a harsh line. I know these trimmers don't set too harsh of a guideline for me to clean up because I'll also zero gap my clippers as well. And so when we're cutting any client down, unless they request to go against the grain, I always like to go with the grain starting from the crown area. This is because the crown is the main area that has calyx and has different growth patterns with the hair. So if we focus on the challenging part first and knock that out and making sure everything flows from there, we should be pretty good. Sometimes they can have swirls around the lineup area or just sometimes different growth patterns throughout the hair. And that's why we start out combing through the hair, just to get an understanding of that. So now we're getting into our fade work. This is step 2. We're moving into the second phase of the haircut, which is fading. So I'm starting out with my lever open to create my initial guideline. And after I do this, I'm immediately going to close up that lever and flick from the bottom of that line to the middle of that panel that we just created. You don't want to go too high and you don't want to push up that line. And after we go close, we go halfway, going from the middle and flicking the clipper to the top of that panel. We're not pushing past that lever open guideline, we're just flicking towards it. And so nice and simple, moving on. We have our 1.5 guard on there, the same guard that we cut the hair down with, and just making sure everything is smooth and there's no extra hair sticking out. And so we flip that 1.5 guard back around. Now we're going against the grain, fully open with our lever. And all we're doing is, imagine we're just debulking that top bulk area down to our lever open that we set with our clipper. We don't have to overcomplicate it at all. Every time we close our lever halfway, we work our way a little bit down into that fade closer to our lever open guideline. And I keep my guards in my hand just so I can be efficient. These haircuts don't take too much time when I get my client in the chair. The tapers are about 3, no more than 4 minutes usually. And my lineup process is pretty efficient as well. About 10 minutes or so, giving prepping and lining and everything. But right there we had that half guard on there, and we started fully open and we worked our way closed back the same way like we used that 1.5 guard down to our initial guideline with the lever open. And all we're doing here is just cleaning it up and tying everything together. We're just taking note of any dark spots or anything like that, making sure our blend looks nice. And we won't spend all day here trying to perfect it. It's just making sure it's clean enough so when we move on, it's still a good blend, but we'll come back and perfect it once we do our lineup. So moving on to the back taper, we like to do the exact same steps as we did on the sides. I will show the raking method right quick. As well, this is another way to just debulk the hair and smooth down those hairs with the grain. You want to just open up your lever and just go with the grain. It's very simple, but it helps clean up that fading area. So I'll just shut up for this back taper and let you guys watch me work. It's a normal pace using the exact same steps, but this is an opportunity for you to see how it just looks in real time without any cuts or edits. So that was real clean and simple. That was phase 2, our fading work. And now we're moving on to the lineup. So any lineup, you always want to keep it full. You see I started at the outermost point where I can get that line sharp but natural at the same time. I love the lineup because it just ties everything together. That fade starts to pop a little more. And also, it's important to have your clippers and trimmers set properly because that back of the neckline is a very sensitive area. And if you have sharp trimmers, this is the part where you can leave lines and just nick the client. And that's where they start getting irritated and stuff like that. So be mindful of how your trimmers and clippers are adjusted. But I know I'm kind of blocking here, but I do want to touch on one point. Is that when I get around the ear, I let the shape of the clipper help me. And what I mean by that is I'm using the corner of my blade. I know a lot of people struggle with getting around those ears, but I'm letting that clipper do the work. The clipper is ergonomically set to really help us in these type of areas. So I'm just tilting my clipper and I'm using that corner just to wrap around the ear, and I have my finger placed on the ear and I'm just kind of just turning my wrist around the ear. So that's a good way to do your ear lineups. And so when we move to our front lineup, you can start with the vertical bars. I like to do that a lot of times, or just start simply in the middle. So what I'm doing here is I'm establishing my line that's going to set the foundation for the whole lineup. What I mean by that, you can see once I place that middle line, I'm just walking that line slowly but surely to the vertical bar. I'm just checking my mirrors. When you see me doing this right here, all I'm doing is I'm checking my mirror and I'm taking my time and I'm working off that middle reference. So I'm just walking it to both corners, trying to achieve balance. Notice how every time I tap, I'm working off the line I already created. I didn't tap my trimmer in one area, then move to the end of that area and place a line again. You get what I'm saying? I'm tapping and I'm working my way off that exact same line. And notice how I'm letting the straight of the blade also help me to achieve that straight lineup. And I'm getting right just up on that corner where I can see the vertical bar naturally wants to meet at a nice angle. And now I'm going to tap that vertical bar in at its outermost point. And before I even place that vertical bar, since we just naturally let that vertical bar come to us by walking that line up to the corner, you could already see exactly where it wanted to be placed at. The key with the vertical bars too is getting those overhanging hairs that will happen when the client brushes their hair or combs their hair. You want to make sure you comb their hair to remove any extra hair, but also grab those fray hairs that the client will see once they brush or comb their hair. And that's how you really achieve that longevity. You see, I had to put the Stylecraft on timeout and grab the Tune 45. Sometimes it be like that. You will notice certain trimmers and certain tools just work better for certain clients and certain hair types. And that's part of just putting time in the game. Like, you will notice what's the right tool for the job once you use your tools long enough. And so we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And notice how you can tell I'm not putting heavy pressure on that trimmer. I'm not pressing it down on the client's scalp. Like I said before, we spend a lot of money on our tools, and that's why you should also set them properly so the tools can do the work. And so that basically was our lineup system. And the only last step to do is now our fourth step is prepping the client. And that's where I pull out the razor, or if they was to get enhancements, he won't get enhancements, and do our detail work. So we basically did our first phase prepping, our second phase fading, our third phase lining, and then our fourth phase, which is detailing. And that's right here. So I like to break down every haircut like that. And it's a simple system anyone can follow. If you like having an efficient and simple system like that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more efficient haircuts. I appreciate you.